Let me transition a second. Let's talk about, in your mind, what are the things that we really need to know if we're going to connect with our community? What do we need to know?
What do they love, and what do they love to do? Okay. What where are they? What are their values? What do they value? What do they really care about? And what do they enjoy doing? I think if you can nail those two things down, not what do they believe, because it's the power of God to change them anyway. Not what they, what they've, how much money they make or what demographic they're in. I mean, that can help us a little bit, but really the rubber meets the road when you get to the point of really coming to a place of knowing what they love and knowing what they love to do.
Give me an example or two of how you figure that out. I think that's a struggle because we can get caught kind of in our own bubble, especially as church leaders. We can get caught in our own bubble. So how do we figure out what people really love? Because it can't just be our perception. We've got to. I mean, there's got to be something more than just anecdotal evidence.
Sure. You got to put on a full court press. So first of all, there's nothing wrong with community survey. Nothing wrong with that. I think you do that. Okay. We did that in a very highly skeptical area, and we still got some back. That's how we found out that they were super distrustful of pastoral leadership. I would have, because I don't know that they would have ever said that to my face, knowing what I do, because they're not mean people. They just, so I think you do that. I think it's full court press. You do lots of different things. You do that. Just listen. Join civic group. Like we were part of the PTA of the local school. So we quickly learned that the neighborhood changing, the way the neighborhood was changing towards academics and education is king. And that is extremely important. It wasn't money. It wasn't prestige. It was that my kids, our kids, this city's kids are going to get a great education, and we're going to do whatever we got to do to make that happen. So we learned really, really quickly that was a thing. And read the demographics. One of the things that I learned, I think it was a couple of weeks in, is that there are more domesticated dogs in the city of Atlanta, Georgia, than there are children.
Oh, wow. Well, so I know when I've been in down like 5 Points and all that area, downtown Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, you often see tons of people out walking their dogs.
Right.
Don't appear to have kids, but they have dogs.
Right. And because it's super expensive to live. And so they're not wanting to have kids in that area where it's going to cost them even more money and not be able to afford another bedroom in whatever they're renting. But likely they're going to have an animal. And, you might not want me to jump ahead, but one of the things we did is we put puppy biscuits in a bucket out by our mailbox on our street. And we sat in our living room in the bay window, or we were in our front yard, and we waited on people to stop and get their dog a treat. And it was a perfect opportunity to start a conversation. Right. So you got to read the demographics. You got to, I think surveys are great, but also just pay attention, just kind of, immerse yourself in it, and then, sit in restaurants or, read the paper. Those types of things I think they're perfect ways to know your neighbors.
Okay. So we've hit on know what they love. What else do we need to know if we're going to connect with them?
You got to know what they're in need of.
Okay. Expand on that a little bit. Give me an example.
So that can be extreme. That can be pragmatic in the sense of you may be in we may find ourselves in an area that is economically depressed, and they need stuff. They need food. They need, food pantry. They need, one of the examples is that we had hundreds of neighbors who were experiencing homelessness. That was very easy to see. And, we stepped in, and that was something that we did in ministry. And we still do that to this day, because once you get a taste of that kind of ministry, it's hard to shake it. And plus once your eyes are trained to look for things and you finally see it, then you see it everywhere. It's not just going to be in your community. So wherever you go, and then once you start seeing it, your people will start seeing it. So that was that was one of the situations. Now, in our community, that our direct community where my family and I lived, there was not financial need or anything like that, but the need we saw there was connection. They were starving just to see humans.
Mm.
They worked in high rises and they worked via, over the internet. And so they, at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whenever they got home, they wanted to physically interact with somebody. So the connection there was an important need in that community. Again, it's, wherever you're at, I mean, I think it all has I don't think as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun necessarily, but each community is going to have something different. And again, the only way to know the needs is you got to know your neighbors.